Hi, my name is Jessica, and I'm an expert in residence with Georgetown University. And first, I'd like to congratulate you on your internship. I hope you're excited to dive in. And today, I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about how to maintain your emotional, physical, and spiritual well-being during your internship because any great, exciting, ambiguous experience is going to come with some uncertainty, maybe moments of stress or fear. And so it's important for us to understand what we can expect and how we can navigate those challenges so that we can really get the most out of our experience without the unnecessary, undue suffering or struggling that may come along with it. So to begin, I'd like to share our agenda for the day. So first, we're going to talk about passion. We're going to talk about the difference between harmonious and obsessive passion, which can have different emotional and physical implications. Then we're going to talk briefly about imposter syndrome. So looking at sort of the makeup of imposter syndrome and how you can avoid it. Then we're going to talk about intuition and sort of this physical and emotional sensitivity we may have as entrepreneurs or creatives that may mean we just have to take a little bit better care of our wiring, of our operating systems. And then finally, we're going to talk about impression management, which, although a very useful and adaptive skill as an entrepreneur, we just have to be mindful of the way that we're using it so that we're able to maintain our authenticity, our vulnerability, and our sense of anchoredness in ourselves and our own experience. So to begin, we're going to talk about passion. So passion has been said to be the most observed phenomenon in entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurs are significantly more passionate than non-entrepreneurs, and passion is typically measured by qualities like emotionality, engagement with one's work, desire, proactive desire to work, commitment, feelings of devotion, feelings of responsibility. But importantly, there are two different types of passion. There's harmonious passion and there's obsessive passion. So harmonious passion is the type of passion we feel when our work is in alignment with who we are and how we want to live our lives. So in other words, we're able to be harmoniously passionate about our work, but we're also able to have healthy friendships, relationships, hobbies. We don't feel guilt or anxiety when we're not working. We're able to step away from work and not feel sort of a guilt or a nervousness that we're not engaged in that object of our passion. Our passion fills us with generally positive emotions, so emotions like happiness or fulfillment or pride. And even though, of course, we're all going to encounter moments with our work when we're feeling a little bit less than elated, generally speaking, when we are harmoniously passionate with our work, we are generally experiencing positive emotions around our work. Obsessive passion, on the other hand, is when we have this controlled relationship with our work. So we feel guilt and anxiety when we're not working. Work tends to make us feel exhausted, or we work until we exhaust ourselves. Our work controls us rather than us being in control of our work. And interestingly, research has shown that this obsessive passion is correlated with entrepreneurial burnout, and that entrepreneurs may be particularly prone to obsessive passion. Now, if any of this sounds like you, or sounds like something that, oh, I could see myself in my internship becoming a little bit obsessed with my work, it's important that you don't shame yourself or criticize yourself for that tendency, because it's really just born from this innate desire you have to be fully immersed in your work. And indeed, when we are passionate about our work, we're able to form this sense of meaning and purpose and identity from it. And so in that sense, we don't want to get rid of our passion. We just want to make sure that our passion doesn't control us. And so to that end, you can keep your wits about you by engaging in non-work related passions. So really keeping up a robust roster of hobbies and relationships and sports and extracurriculars and things that you're doing outside of your internship. Keeping your social life alive and well, so not isolating, staying in close touch with family and friends, and really being mindful of not putting your internship and your responsibilities with your internship above your relationships. Watching for obsessive emotions. So if you do feel these emotions around control or anxiety or feeling guilty when you're not working, first, don't freak out. It's okay. It's quite normal, but you may want to speak with a mentor or a coach or a friend or a family member or maybe a therapist about working through some of those more difficult emotions, as that could be indicative of something that you may experience throughout your career and just want to nip in the bud early on. And then finally, maintaining a flexible, not fixed mindset. So what I mean by this is individuals who are obsessively passionate tend to have a fixed mindset in that they believe that one mistake can throw their entire career off course, or one flopped presentation is going to be the end of everything, or one email, with a typo in it is just absolutely awful, or that there's sort of this, destiny, this outside force that's controlling their work rather than themselves being in control of their work. Whereas people with a flexible mindset tend to have more harmonious passion. So in other words, these people with a flexible mindset are able to say, my career is going to evolve over time. Mistakes are going to happen. I don't have to be perfect. And that all of these sort of detours or mistakes or challenges are ultimately going to lead me to a deeper and richer career. So just keeping in mind to maintain that flexible mindset and not getting, sort of too downtrodden when there are these hiccups or mistakes, because it is, trust me, nothing you do in this internship is going to negatively affect the rest of your career. So second part, we're going to talk about imposter syndrome. Conquering the imposter. So imposter syndrome is when we doubt our knowledge and abilities, when we worry that we're going to be exposed as a fraud, when we worry that our successes are due to luck rather than skill or talent. So interestingly, 84% of entrepreneurs and small business owners experience imposter syndrome. So it's really, really common. And quite surprisingly, male entrepreneurs experience intense imposter syndrome more than females, which could be due to this engendered belief that men may have around, needing to be the breadwinner or needing to be sort of classically successful in the way that, perhaps their fathers raised them to be. So imposter syndrome often comes with this fear about being found out as a fraud, as if, one day something will happen that exposes that they really don't know what they're doing. And perhaps the reason that imposter syndrome is so common among entrepreneurs is that there's really no way to fully train yourself to be an entrepreneur, because entrepreneurship is filled with so much uncertainty and ambiguity. And so in that sense, it can be difficult to fully equip yourself with all of the skills necessary, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your success is in any way invalid or fraudulent. However, this imposter syndrome does tend to result in isolation and self-doubt and feelings of inadequacy. And I found this last bit quite interesting, that Asian Americans tend to have the highest cultural percentage of frequent to intense imposter syndrome. So this is sort of tied to the cultural norms that Asian Americans may have around success and intelligence and capability. So you can keep your wits about you during your internship by reminding yourself that if you feel these flickers of imposter syndrome, that it's normal and common to feel this way. You're not broken, you're not bad, and you're definitely not alone if you have these feelings. Practice speaking openly about your concerns, really leaning into the power of vulnerability rather, than hiding this sentiment that you feel like you don't know what you're doing. Talk to your mentor, your supervisor, talk to an EIR at Georgetown to help work through some of these imposter syndrome beliefs or concerns. Cultivate demonstrable skills and knowledge. So while you can't master every facet of entrepreneurship because it's constantly throwing us curveballs, there are certain domains that you can acquire this demonstrable knowledge in the sense that you can prove to yourself that you know how to code an app, or you know how to create a really great marketing presentation, or that you know how to create a business model. Or a financial model. So by really focusing on what you can learn, that may mitigate this feeling that there's this vast amount of knowledge out there that you don't know or that you haven't acquired. And also considering cultural, racial, and engendered pressures. So as a man or a woman, what does that teach you about success as an entrepreneur, as an intern? As a white American or an Asian American or a Black American, what does that what pressures do you feel specifically around success in your role as a result of your racial or cultural background? So really just reflecting upon these, and again, maybe talking to an EIR, a coach, a therapist, family members, just so you can start working through some of these beliefs and reframing and shifting them. Third, watch your sensitive system. So I love talking about this, and it's one of the most relevant topics for me because I am a creator through and through, and I am a deeply, deeply sensitive spirit. What I mean by sensitive is that my nervous system is very tuned in, very tapped in. It's very intuitive. It's noticing every pattern, connecting every dot, but in that sense is also very hyper aware of its surroundings. So interestingly, entrepreneurs have been found by research to be more intuitive than non-entrepreneurs. And this intuition is often a byproduct of an attentive nervous system. So intuition is this perceptive nervous system that's noticing everything that's going on in its surroundings, which can be an incredible boon when it comes to skating where the puck is going. Can also be an incredible challenge when it comes to protecting your nervous system from being too overstimulated. So research has shown that high IQ is linked to a more sensitive nervous system, and that those with high IQs who have these sensitive nervous systems are more prone to both physiological and psychological illness. So the reason for this is, you have these nervous systems that are just receiving everything, feeling everything, sensing everything, and that can directly be used in your creative and entrepreneurial work, but it can also wear down the nervous system. And so what this requires us to do is to really keep our wits about us by reframing our sensitivities as our strengths. So if you're listening to this and you're saying, yes, I'm sensitive, I just feel hyper vigilant and like my system notices everything, know that that is a really incredible power source for you. That's an incredible source of inspiration. Using myself as an example, because I have this very sensitive nervous system, I'm able to pick up on things that many people don't realize, and I'm able to incorporate that into my work. So I have learned to view my sensitivities as this incredible blessing, as being linked to my intelligence and my intuition and my creativity. But what I have not always embraced is that I need to care for this sensitive system, so that I need to take self-care just as seriously as I need to take my professional development. Because if I ignore my self-care, then my work suffers. And so for people who have these sensitive nervous systems, it's going to be really important to identify soothing, grounding practices. So identifying the things that work for you. So for me, things like warm baths, warm food and drinks, nature, animals. So, I have a little kitten. Well, she's not really a kitten. I call her a kitten. She's a full-grown cat running around here somewhere. Animals that have been shown to be very good for grounding, soothing, calming the nervous system. Breath work, meditation, creating rituals. So the enemy of a sensitive nervous system is going to be loudness, chaos, constant socialization, lots of stimulants, so whether that's caffeine or sugar. So just being really mindful of what your system needs. And then finally, and this is related to self-care, drawing boundaries and protecting your energy. So if you have a sensitive nervous system like me, chances are you're going to have to create boundaries around, how many calls you take in a day, how long you spend in close proximity to other people, how long you're able to tolerate really crowded, noisy, busy environments. Fortunately, in this pandemic, we're not going to malls and concerts and whatnot, quite as much as we used to. But just being mindful as we reintroduce ourselves to these settings, whether it's a college setting or a business setting or it's a co-working setting, being mindful about the way that those environments might drain your energy and creating some boundaries around that. And then finally, our fourth topic is don't fool yourself. So we are going to be talking about impression management. So impression management is when we seek to improve our image in the eyes of others. So it's no secret that in order to be successful, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're working in a corporate setting, is being able to manage the way that others perceive you and that they perceive your work product. And so to an extent, impression management is necessary. If we had no sense of managing our impressions, we'd be, running around, not really portraying ourselves or our work in a favorable light, which doesn't do anybody any good. So a certain amount of impression management is useful, and it's tied to things like charisma and salesmanship and those other sort of entrepreneurial tendencies. So impression management often looks like using positive language, so using a lot of sort of glossy, glowy language to talk about yourself or your work. Opinion conformity, so say you're sort of in your first day of your internship and you're talking to the person who's going to be your supervisor, you may find yourself conforming your opinion to the opinion of your supervisor so that you create that sense of liking and camaraderie. It may also involve blasting or belittling the competition, so creating an us versus them mentality. So many times when impression management is used in the context of a pitch, it will involve telling the investors or the stakeholders why, the competition sucks. And when done right, impression management is correlated with both venture funding, so the likelihood to receive venture funding, as well as perceptions of legitimacy. However, when done in a not so mindful way, it may result in damaged identities and false perceptions. So, inauthenticity, impressionability, really creating this not so high integrity image of ourselves, in the sense that we're just telling people what they want to hear, rather than, leading from this core foundation of who we are, what our values are, how we want to show up. So again, the light side of impression management is this charisma and salesmanship. The dark side of this impression management is this inauthenticity, this impressionability, this manipulation, and sort of the chameleon-like behavior that we often see in entrepreneurs that can result in a not so solid sense of self. So to keep your wits about you, reflect. So take some time to reflect upon salesmanship versus inauthenticity. Where are those lines for you? What's the difference between positioning yourself in a favorable light and blatant misrepresentation? So starting to define your personal values around authenticity and vulnerability. So what sort of are you willing to compromise on versus not compromise on? How important is transparency for you in your life and work? Identifying authenticity, accountability, friends or colleagues. So, I have a few friends in my life who over the years, they love me enough to tell me, hey, Jessica, I think that, that felt a little, that didn't feel like you when you said that or when you did that. And having those people in my life who truly know who I am, and so they're able to tell me when I'm sort of bending that mirror a little bit too much, can be really, really, really helpful. And then finally, exploring the ways in which you wish to be perceived as an entrepreneur. So, really anchoring into that sense of, what do I want people to think about me? Do I want them to think I'm capable, at sort of at all costs, or do I want them to say that I'm genuine and sincere and also capable, but that I'm not going to be a jerk, or I'm not going to sort of manipulate or change my views or opinions based on who I'm talking to? So really anchoring into that early on can be a great way of staying true to yourself during your internship. So that it about wraps us up. I hope you enjoyed this. If you want to learn more, there's a ton more on these topics in my book, Wired This Way, which you can find on Amazon. I also talk about it in my recent TEDx, Creator Interrupted. You can follow me on Instagram, LinkedIn, on my website, and of course, you can schedule time with me to chat because I am an expert in residence with Georgetown. So I hope you enjoyed this. There will be a quiz that is waiting for you somewhere, hopefully easy to find, and enjoy your internship. All right, bye for now.